Hello, everyone. I hope I am audible to you all. Somebody can unmute and convey me whether I am
Yes, ma'am.
audible or not. Okay, thank you. Let us start with today's class. Okay, so yesterday I started with the brief overview of the software engineering. Okay, it was very brief overview given, and my intention was why what was the crisis over there. So what were the what are the challenges? What are the scenario over there while working on the very big project? Okay, so continuing with that, uh, I will continue with that topic today also a little bit. Uh, and then I will start with the introduction to C++. Okay, and various features of the C++. So, continuing with yesterday's discussion, we have seen the different phases of software development. And then, towards the end of the yesterday's discussion, I mentioned that after deployment of the system, it is not the case that the software development team has done its work, but rather its new phase starts because of either the new requirement come up with from the customer, or it might be some change in the policies which governs that application. Okay, which need to be incorporated that. So whatever is the reason, but after the deployment, if you look at the maintenance phase, it's a continuous process. Okay, it goes on. So, and that's why if you look at the first point, when I mentioned about the software development crisis, I mentioned that the software development is not a static process, but it is a dynamic. It will keep on going until that application is in operation, or is deployed, or is in use. Okay. Another point which I mentioned yesterday is that new tools and techniques are announced in very quick succession. Okay, and we cannot say that which tool or technique will succeed. Okay, or will become very popular or will be very beneficial for the developers. Okay, so this means that the software engineers and industry people who are working in this area are continuously required to look for the new approaches for the software design and development. Okay, uh, and this is why, because as I said, if the software development tool is more sophisticated, okay, then more and more complex system can be developed easily in less time. Okay, another thing all of you need to understand is, for software development industry also, the competition is very high. There are so many organizations who are working in the software development industry are there, so they do have competition amongst them. Okay, and when they bid, when they submit some tender, when they bid to some organization, to the customer, for development of some application, their rates has to be very competitive because of the high competition. Okay, and of course that rate will be decided by the man hours put in, the quality of man hours and the quantity of the man hours put in by that organization or developing industry while developing that software application product. Okay, so so it forced them to make use of such a programming tool which will be very sophisticated. I mean to say that which will be very easy for the programmer to incorporate many complex things which required by that application development. Okay, so that is what the um, scenario currently in the market. Okay, now coming to the, okay, for example, if there is some module, if there is some no, assume that there is some industry, electronic industry, which is making some mobile. Okay, and now they want to maintain their inventory. Earlier their product, the earlier product was described, say, with 10 features. Okay, so accordingly they have built a module which is looking after the mobile inventory of a particular model. But then after 3 months, some changes uh, took place, and they added few more feature, and they want to advertise those features also, and they want to mention those feature while maintaining the inventory. Okay, so again the requirement came that okay, something was already there, but whatever was already in place in that application, they want to modify a little bit. Okay, so instead of rewriting the complete code, or doing a copy paste and then modifying that newly created module, if there if there could have been any feature in the programming language by which um, we can bring all the old features in the uh, new module without disturbing the existing one. Okay, so such kind of requirements came up, um, keep on coming during the maintenance phase. Okay, so what actually we want is, we don't want to go, or the developer don't want to go in the mode of copy paste. Rather they want some kind of features in the programming tool itself. Okay, which will make their job very easy, because whenever we think of copying and pasting, okay, and after pasting, of course we expect some modifications in the code. But because of this, some bug might get crept in your code, and getting hold on that bug will be very very difficult if your application is very big. Okay, if you're writing 100-line codes, it's fine, but when it goes for the very big live application, then it's all these things changes. Okay, so now, and that's why the programming language designer realized that whatever the language, procedural languages they were using, okay, they felt that there are so many lacunas. Okay, it is not the case that C language um, was not sufficient, is not very good, but still, if you want to develop a very big application, then a very skilled person, okay, very skilled person is programmer is required. um, Never less to underestimate the C language, because many OS during that time was developed using C language. Okay, so not to underestimate the functionality of C language. Okay, so coming to the object oriented programming, it's an approach. Okay, it's an approach that which tried to get rid of some of the pitfalls that the researchers or the programming language designer found in the procedural language. Okay, in the conventional programming language. Okay, so but while designing the new language, they also wanted to carry forward the strong features which were there in the structural programming language. Okay, while introducing several new concepts which they felt that it will ease the job of the programmer. Okay, so they thought of that the new language should be a way to organize and conceptualize a program as a set of interacting object. Okay, so if you go to the bank, if we think about the bank software application for banking, then customer will be one object or entity in that environment. Then the executive bank executive, which no which helps you in doing either depositing money or to withdrawing money or doing any other bank related bank account related transaction. Okay, that will be another entity, and that entity can be represent should be able to represent as an object in that environment, and this object can interact with each other. Okay, that interaction also was also important. Okay, and as we have seen that what we wanted is, if you look at the banking software, the customer actually customers saving account, okay, is an object. And then for that object, what is more important is the data, okay, the data and how the data will be modified. Okay, these two things were very they thought that it is very important. Okay, so the center of the object oriented programming was the object, which is actually a combination of data and the set of restricted function which will be able to access that. Okay, and which will define the functionality also, which will define the functionality also. Okay, so there are some accounts. Okay, there are some accounts, I don't remember exactly the name of those, the type of that account, not like a saving account, but it's a long term gained account, in which if you sell a very big property, and then if you could not able to invest in buying another property, then the government will charge you some income tax over there. But if you want to save that income tax, then you can have another type of account. I don't remember the exact name of that account, but then what is the difference between this two type of the account, that is normal saving account and that long term gain account, that you can keep on depositing money in that, but you cannot withdraw it frequently. You can only withdraw that money only once. Okay, that is what I mean to say here by functionality. Okay, so if the that account is of that long term gain accumulation account, then it will not have it will not have a method or function which will allow you to withdraw frequently from that account. Okay, that is what I mean over here by the functionality. Okay, so member methods also uh, describes the functionality of that object, that what you can do with that object. Okay, I hope all of you are with me for this. Okay, another aspect, I mean, continuing with what I'm talking about, the object oriented programming, that it views software as a collection of the discrete object, just now I told you, and data is critical element. Okay, again I would like to mention that don't take a note of this. Okay, this is just a theoretical aspect, and there will be no question at all in exam also. It is just I'm introducing this concept to make you comfortable, that why we are discussing object oriented, or why there is a necessity to learn object oriented programming language. Okay, so if you look at the object oriented programming languages, they are designed so that in that application, the uh, the data will be treated as a critical element. Okay, and it will not be allowed to free flow throughout the program. Okay, and as I mentioned, that ties data closely to the function, okay, which defines the functionality of that object. Okay, and which also protect it from accidental modification from the outside function. Okay, and as I said, that if we consider the example of banking software, it is very easy for us to identify various entity in that environment. Like just I said, the customer, which will be identified with a account. Okay, then the one who are working for the bank. Okay, there will be another entity in that environment, and looking at that environment, it will be very easy for the software developer to analyze that environment and study it well, and define that, okay, this need to be represented by an object, this need to be represented by another type of the object, and so on. Okay, so understanding about the environment and designing that uh, designing part becomes very easy when we go with a object oriented programming. Okay, same is not the case with a procedural one. Okay, so assume that A is an object, which is a saving account. Okay, B is the bank executive, which is helping you in withdrawing or depositing or doing some kind of transaction through bank. And C might be some higher authority in the bank, okay, or it might be a card section of the same bank, okay. So they can interact with each other through the functions, okay. Not necessarily that object A, B, and C belongs to the same class, okay. That is what the function of one object can access the function of another object, okay, of the same type also and of the different type also. This part I have yesterday I have mentioned that any object, it is having two part, data and function. Data is called data members, that is variables, and function is the kind of operation you want to perform on the data, and also some functions which will help in interacting with the outside world, okay, outside that object, like inputting some data, or that if you want to see that how much balance is there in your account, so it will read the data of that object and it will convey it to you, okay. So it is not the case that the kind of expectation just now I have mentioned, that cannot be done with the help of procedural language. Yes, it can be achieved with a procedural language, okay. But what makes the object oriented language different from the procedural language is that it provides data abstraction, data encapsulation. See, what is abstraction? Can anybody? I cannot read chat, so somebody has to unmute and tell me. Abstraction. I don't want very technical answer. I hope I am audible to all. Yes. No one. Okay. Abstraction means uh, just, I mean, it might be very close to you all. That is, if somebody writes very beautiful article, and in that article if he describe no, very artistically and very beautifully about the scenery in words, not in pictures, okay. So what I can say, that that written piece of paper or that article is an abstraction of the person who might have visited that place, okay. So this is one uh, abstraction from the literature. From technical thing, when I say that, again going back to the same example, that is banking software. So now that account, okay, customer's account is represented as an object. So this is nothing but abstraction, okay. That money is somewhere else, right? That money is somewhere else, but it is being represented in a different form, in a different way, with a different way, okay. That is what the abstraction. So you can go for any type of abstraction, okay. I mean, it is I mean, I took a little meaning to make you understand, that is what is abstraction, okay. Now data encapsulation, as I mentioned. Now whatever the variables associated with that object will not be um flowing free, okay. So nobody, I mean, no other function, unless until that particular object will allow a particular function to access the data, okay, will able to access that data. That is encapsulation. You're putting the functionality and the data in one shell, okay, and the functions which are inside that shell will be able to access the data, okay. Not only the meaning of encapsulation is also that, is that, see, for example, assume that for defining a particular, okay, I will elaborate this data encapsulation later on, okay. Inheritance. Just now I said that one mobile manufacturing company was there, and they were having they were manufacturing some model, but after every 3 months they come up with a new model. So for maintaining the inventory, and of course the new model will come with at least few additional features. Okay. Additional feature, and while maintaining in the inventory, or while or whatever the module they have for printing the wrapper on the box of that mobile, okay, it will be little bit different. It will have little more information. But you have already one module in a place which describe that the older product, older model of that mobile. Now you want the same set of feature but added few feature also. Okay. So instead of creating or writing the complete new code, what functionality I want is whatever is written when I will be creating a new class, all that code will should be, or all those data members should get inherited. That is what inheritance. It is this inheritance come from the biological background, right? Like we inherit some of the genes from both of our parents. Okay. So something like that. So that new class will have inherited property. Now in the biological term, we don't have a control on which, no, which genes we are inheriting from our parents. But here we can exercise that control, or rather we generally uh, with the access specifier we can mention, or we can design whichever whatever is suitable for our application. Okay. Now of course when I inherit or derive a new class from the existing class, there might be some methods which might be working with the old model with a restricted data. But now in the newly derived class there are more number of features. Okay, more number of features. So if there is some function which is printing all those module to be printed on the cover of the that package, then I'm required to modify that. Okay. So in polymorphism, if there is a non-member function which is calling this member function, but now I have modified it, but that print function I have written long back. Okay. But that print function should invoke appropriate method of the new class if the object is of the new class, that is a child class. If object is of the parent class, then it should invoke the print method of the parent class. So if such kind of thing you such kind of feature you want while developing an application, then we need a feature which is called polymorphism. That is the same your formal argument, but it will change. um, it will invoke a particular function based on the data present, based on the actual parameter. Okay. So we are not going to change the formal parameter, but when we will invoke that method based on the value of the actual parameter, it will invoke appropriate member method. Okay, that is polymorphism. And polymorphism is in many forms, right? I said that while designing the compiler of some of the languages, addition operator is already made understood to the compiler, but addition of two matrices is not there. Okay, but you can write the code so that if I say M3 is equal to M plus M2, where M1 and M2 are the matrices instead of the integer or real numbers. Okay. And if you code appropriately to work with the statement, then the newly developed program will be able to perform the arithmetic operations on the matrices. But of course, you are required to write the code for that. Without that, it is not possible. Okay. So most of the time of this semester during this course, we will be spending time for learning and mastering all these concepts. Okay. Uh, See, as just now I said that reusability of a code. Okay, reduce man hours to be put in for developing any application drastically. Okay, but not by copying and pasting. But not by copying and pasting. Okay, here we are going to reuse the code either through inheritance or through the generic programming. Okay. Okay. So what is object? Okay, coming to, so today I'm going to start with the first uh, point about the object oriented programming, that is objects. Okay, so objects are nothing but runtime entity. Okay, runtime entity. uh, Again, I will continue with the banking software. So the banking software, the customer account is one object. Okay, it is one object. Okay, now there can be many variety of first of all, uh, in the bank there is not only one customer, but there are many customers. There are many customer. Okay, now if we go about the customers, then there are type of the customers. Okay, so one by one I will take it. Okay, so first thing is, there is the entity. Okay, there is the entity which I will call account. Account. Okay, now that account will be described with some attributes. Will be described with some attribute. Okay, and the functionality coming back. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Audible. Thank you. Okay, so for every application, the objects will be an runtime entity. Okay, so programmer defines the object that will exist. So while the phase of designing in software engineering, the software engineer will, or analyst will identify that how many entities will be there. That is, how many, what are the different types of objects will be there. Okay, now as I mentioned, in the bank there is not only one customer account, right? There are many customer accounts. Okay, so programmers should have a facility to create an object as and when they need. As and when they need. Okay, so if new customer come, I then he would like to open an account, so again one object will be created for that newly created account, and so on. Okay, so that facility should be there with the programmer. Okay, then programmers also should be in position to specify that how the various objects will communicate and interact with each other. Okay, that is, for that we need to have a member function. Okay, so let us have a real world objects. Okay, so always remember that any entity in the real, I mean, or any object, okay, in real life, it can be described with help of some attributes. Okay, anything. You talk about anything, I will give you the example. I mean, what kind of attributes we can use to describe that entity or that object. Okay, you talk about your classroom. Okay, the dimension of the length, breadth, height of the classroom, the number of windows, the position of the windows, number of doors. Okay, number of light fittings, number of fans, the location of the fans. So you take any object in the real life. Okay, and that object can be can be described with the help of attributes. Okay, and then that room will have some kind of functionality also, some kind of behavior also. That is how the classes are, how the classes are engaged in that classroom. Okay, the time slots, who will engage, which course will be delivered in that classroom. Okay, who is authorized to make use of the no electronic gadget installed in that classroom. Okay, so that is the behavior, that is the behavior. Okay, so here very trivial example have been mentioned in this slide. Dog is one object, then attribute of that dog can be the breed, the color of that dog, whether the dog is tired, feeling hungry or not. That can be attribute. Okay, and let me tell you, this set of the attribute will change based on the application, based on the application also. Okay, same data or same area, but if the applications requirements are different, then they will consider the different attributes. Okay, so for example, if somebody wants to no, just to do the study in a particular society, that typically which breed is more popular and which color is people more prefer for while bringing the dog in that in their home. Okay, so they will took into consideration only breed and color. Okay, if somebody is doing some scientific study on the dog, okay, then they will try to find out that, okay, how frequently that dog feels hungry, how quickly that dog gets not tired after doing this particular physical activity. Okay, so object is same, but now the two applications are different. One application just wanted to know that which breed and color is very popular, okay, nowadays, and another is doing some kind of no, scientific study on the dogs. Okay, all of you, I think, are with me. Okay, so which attribute to take into consideration while describing that object depends on the application you are developing. Okay, okay, then behavior is eating, playing, running, and sleeping. Okay, similarly, as I mentioned earlier, also bank account, the attribute can be bank account number, the details of the owner, okay, current balance type, and so on. Okay, and behavior can be withdrawal, deposit, transfer from one account to another, okay, and so on. So these are the behavior. Whatever the behavior is defined, you cannot go beyond that. Okay, if you want to no, if you want to introduce few additional behavior, then again you are required to take help of the inheritance, which we are going to discuss in detail during this course. Okay, so ultimately when we write some application, okay, when we write some software application, what we are actually doing, we are developing a computational model for that real world object and its associated processes, it associated processes. Okay, coming to the object. As I said, it is just a see, it is not the case that we have not done the modeling. Okay, I keep on telling everyone that right from the class or pre-primary classes, nursery, okay, lower kg and upper kg, where you started counting and all. So why we learn to count? Anybody? Shall I start with roll number 1, 2, 3? Or voluntarily some of you will come up? Yes. Okay, let us start with Akanksha. Akanksha, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So can you tell me that if I say that it is not the case that we started developing a mathematical model or computational model only when you reach to your higher classes? It is actually started from your primary education. Are
Yes,
you
sir.
agree with me?
Yes.
Can you give me example? See, we start first our lesson of this is counting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. Okay, so why counting is taught? Why counting is required? Okay, why addition was taught in first standard or
To add some numbers if required.
but can you tell me the real life application of that? Simple. Nowadays what parents do, okay, while planning their kid's birthday, they will, I mean, if there are siblings, two siblings, then of course for everyone's birthday both would like to invite their own friends, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then if then parents will ask that, okay, tell me the numbers to whom you tell me the number of your friends to whom you want to invite to the birthday party, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so application was what? Addition is ultimately what they wanted to know, the total number of invitees. Why? They want to make appropriate arrangement for those many guests. Okay, so whatever the addition, x plus y, z is equal to x plus y, so that is nothing but a mathematical model which we are actually subconsciously applied to our everyday life. Okay, I think Gaurav replied and very correctly replied that uh, we can identify amount of object. Yes, very very okay, based on real life problem. Very correct, Shruti. Okay, so it is not the case that after reaching to your higher classes or after reaching to the engineering no, classes, we are actually required to model the real life entities. It is not the case. We started it long back when actually no, our parents started teaching us at home or yeah, in school teacher. Okay, so only the thing is we never thought that okay, we started doing the modeling, whether it is a mathematical model. All of you might have written a very good equations for physics or electrical engineering. What is that? When you are writing an equation for RLC circuit, what is that? That is nothing but a mathematical model for your physical electrical circuit. All of you agree with me? Okay, so similarly, yes, Kamal wants to say something. Raj, yes, you have any question?
No, ma'am. No question.
Okay. Okay, so on the same line, object oriented methodology gives programmer tool to make this modeling process easier. Okay, so don't get afraid of modeling word. we started doing modeling right from our childhood. Okay, only the interpretation of that or the application of that or the form of modeling is now computing. Okay, so just to summarize about this software object, they are like real world object which have attributes and can be described with some behavior. Okay, as I said, behavior that operates on the attributes. Okay, so variables of an object are called attributes, and procedure associated with an object are called method. Okay, now coming to the same example, if you look at this, that again bank example, bank might be having multiple similar object. Okay, up till now we have discussed about the object, but in the bank also there can be multiple objects, but they might differ because they might be having different values for these attributes. Okay, so objects are characterized by the value of these attributes, which in computing terms we will be defining with a name variable, with the set of variables. Okay, so one object might be different from the another because of its attribute value, okay. Now if I am required to have a multiple objects of the same type but different attribute value, okay, so this gives, or this essentially tells that we should have some mechanism with which we should be able to create more than one objects of the same type but with different attribute values. Okay, and that can be done with the classes, because you take any real world application, only one object of that type will not be exist. Okay, there can be, for in that application, many objects of the same type will be required, but those will be characterized by the different values of their attributes. Okay, so for that they introduce the concept of classes. Okay, so classes is nothing but a generic definition for a set of similar objects which will have the attributes and methods. Okay, attributes and methods describe or organize into a class. Okay, and when we say that we create an object, means what? We instantiated an instance of that class. Okay, when we instantiated an instance of that class, then object get created. Okay, so
Speaking something, you're not audible.
So coming back, so when we create an object, that is nothing but we instantiate an instance of that class, which is called an object. Okay. Now every instance of the same class will have the same set of attributes, but each instance will have its own distinct value, own distinct value for those attributes. Okay. So an object of the same class, different object of the same class will be described with the same set of attributes, that is a variable that we call data members. Okay. But their values might be different, and that's why they are different from each other. Okay. And it is not necessary that all the objects will be of the different value. It might be the case that two objects might be having same values. Okay. So it depends on the application. Just to summarize, we have seen one example of the airplane class already. Okay, so a class is a user defined type representing a set of item with the same structure and behavior. Okay, so we have already seen an example of the class airplane. Then we have instantiated an instance of that class in, I think, some in another function named some function, and with a name. So now this is as good as one variable for us in that function. Okay, in the non-member function. So this is an instance of the airplane. Mary 747 is an instance of a class airplane. Okay, so it's very simple. There is a typo here. There should be a space. Okay, so instantiation is nothing but a process of creating an object. Okay, each object of a class has its own data member with their values. Okay, so if I create an object of airplane of class airplane, say A1, another object A2 of the same class. Okay, so A1 will have two variable. One is speed and another is altitude. Okay, A2 will also have its own set of data members, speed and altitude. All of you are with me? Okay. So whenever you will be creating an instance or the object of a class airplane, a memory will be allocated for the attributes, for its data member. Okay. But the set of the or member functions, okay, member function that is set speed or set altitude, these are the functions. Okay, look at it as a normal function, but a little bit special because they do have access to these data members. They do have access to this data member of these instances of the class airplane. Okay, but the same set of member function. Okay, it is not the case that for every object the member function copy in the memory while running the application will be different. No, assume that this is a memory map. Okay, it is the memory will be allocated for A1 object of A1 and A2 for object of the class airplane. So they will be allocated different memory. I don't remember the data type of for the speed. I think it was integer or real number. Based on the type of based on the data type, the memory will be allocated to these data members, these variables. Okay, and there will be only one memory which will be holding the definition of the set speed and set altitude function. Okay, and same copy of this method will be used by A1 as well as A2. Okay, that is what the meaning of the last statement, that if I create these two instances, they will have a different speed and altitude value and will be allocated separate memory locations, whereas they will share the set speed and set altitude functions amongst themselves. Okay, so last point. So when we call any method, or sorry, any function procedure in procedural language, we typically write call so and so function. Okay, now here, if you look back into the code which I have demonstrated day before yesterday and yesterday also, okay, the member method will be always invoked in association with an object of that class. Okay, so if you remember yesterday's how we have invoke, if assume that this is one instance, an object Boeing 747 dot, just like in structure you have done this. Okay, set altitude. Okay, so this member method with some value here, actual parameter. So this member method will be always invoked in association with some object of that class in which this is defined, in which this member method is defined. I hope all of you are with me. Okay, is there any query? Is there any query? Now I can see chat also. If you have any, if anybody is having any query, put in the chat box. Okay, if there are no queries, then I will stop here today. Okay, fine. I would like to engage one tutorial tomorrow. So for that, I will be contacting CRs separately.